Rise up!
This is the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. I'm your host, Jess Root from CardsWire.com, the USA Today NFL wire site that covers your Arizona Cardinals, recording episode 684 on a Thursday night with my co-host from RevengeOfTheBirds.com, SB Nation's Arizona Cardinals site, Seth Cox, as always, as we bring you our second of two shows this week with training camp. And this is our shorter show, Seth, since we just recorded a couple days ago. Cardinals had an off day on Wednesday, which means on Thursday they had the way they're trying to model training camp after like the practice schedule. So they practice 3 days in a row and then they have an off day. Only this year, and you know, your former staff member is probably thrilled about it, because they would, in previous camps, they would never have consecutive padded practices. This year, after their off day, they have a lighter day, and then they have two padded days. Kind of trying to ramp it up, strengthen them up, and get them calloused a little bit, because during the regular season, teams generally speaking, they're only allowed one padded practice per week, and there might be a bonus padded practice on coming off of the mini bye or something like that when they get an extra practice during the week.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too, is, you know, something I've talked about quite a bit, and I even wrote about the other day, right? Like the reality of a new regime, right, is kind of, to start with, you have to find the right players. Like, there has to be the right mix of people that will buy in. And so you can come in guns blazing, right? Like, you can come in and crack the whip. You can be Vic Fangio, right? And like, I'm Vic Fangio. Oh, this is how we're going to do things.
Vic Fangio, Tom Coughlin,
right?
Bruce Arians as well.
But even if you are, the thing with Fangio was he was ultra successful as a DC, right? Like, yeah. But first time head coach, and he could never get that culture bought in, right? Like, he could never get the Broncos to buy into that culture. 7-9, 5-11, 7-10, like, just never really could get it figured out. And people are like, I just don't understand. He was such a good DC. Like, well, that's the thing, is like, when you're a DC, you can be a bit of a hard ass, and they have the head coach that they lean on, right? Or they have, so, and then OC too, right? Like, you can be the cool guy that lets them just, have fun and but as the head coach, you're in charge of the whole squad. So they either buy in and take on that personality of the head coach and fight. And, like you said with Arians, right? That team was Bruce Arians reincarnate. Like, it was a massive veteran overhaul. They had to get, they had to get bought in. They had to get Carson Palmer to not play like dog doo-doo like he did the first 6-7 games of that first season. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was fine. It was better than fine. It was good. And they just missed the playoffs, and then everybody's like, okay, we're in. Like, we buy into this. This is going to be awesome. But what ends up happening, right, is in these circumstances, when you're a first-time head coach and you're coming into a team that's, let's be honest, pretty much awful, you have one of two ways you can go about it. You can build the culture from the ground up, and that's kind of what JG has done, right? I mean, everybody kind of talks about it, and we've seen it a little bit. I don't want to say too inside, but like we've seen it a little bit, right? Like he's really tried to mimic how they went about things in Detroit, right? And building it not just, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but building it not just for the, hey, we got to win a Super Bowl in 3 years, or it's all going to fall apart, like Bruce Arians, right? Like, I don't have time to coach these young kids. Like, they either get it or they don't. And that was his mentality. And so, JG is like, no, we got to lay a foundation. We got to start from the ground up and build. And these guys either buy in or they don't. And if they don't, then we'll find the right pieces that do buy in. And this isn't at a particular person or player or coach that's been gone, removed. It's just, that's how they wanted to do it. And now it feels like he's like, this is probably how he wanted to do it from the beginning, right? Like, oh, this is, I want to be intense. We want to be meaningfully intense at practice. And then, go throttle back a little bit, and then ramp it up again and have it in that way. But especially, again, not trying to throw shade at Cliff, coming from Cliff Kingsbury, who's like, veterans, do what you want, like you guys do, Vance, you run the defense. And so
in fairness, like when it came to like veteran days off, Gannon doesn't give, like, during the regular season, yes. But in training camp, there are no veteran days off because they do different pace things. So like when Arians was here, and like especially Arians, like when they put the pads on, and they're gonna have the pads on. But then he would just give guys off periodically to give the other guys reps. And so Gannon's like, he's like, we're not going to give guys days off. Now, if you're hurt, that's different. And so they're excessively, especially during camp, and that leading to what the first topic of conversation is, like, if they're at all banged up, they don't push their guys in training camp because they're not games yet. So if they are a little injured, they're, as JJ loves to say, going to be smart with him, as opposed to you manage practice reps during the regular season so they could play in training camp. You're like, okay, we'll pull you back a day. And then for those veterans, so you're not going full speed every day, you've got an off day every fourth day. One of your 3 practices is non-padded, and it's not the same pace. And so you have days off built in without having to separate certain guys to say they're above practicing in camp. And so it kind of buys in that everyone practices if you're healthy, no matter what, but we will manage your reps differently.
Right. And that's, you're really, I think, starting to see the overall Jonathan Gannon culture and what he wants in a team, and you're starting to see that filter in a positive way. And so again, the whole thing is always, will it work out? And you and I are just completely honest.
Any type of way can work out, honestly. Any type of way can work out, because they have all like the light, like, look, the Rams run very light off-season stuff. Their starters barely do anything. They went to freaking Hawaii for mandatory mini camp.
Right. There, Sean McVay is one, type, and then there's, Bill Belichick, and there's the hard asses and stuff like that. And so, the ones, I don't want to say no, because again, we don't, but like the ones you look at and you go, that's not going to work. Like what's going on in Dallas right now, right? Like that seems like a giant poop show, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is awful. Like, what is happening here? 3 fights in a day. They have to stop practice to run gassers. Like, what are we in high school, guys? Come on, like, let's go. Like, have some respect for the coaches and yourself. And so those are the ones you're like, I don't think that's gonna work, man. But like I said, I think the way Gannon has approached it and does approach it is it's so honest and openly him. And he was, reticent to just expect everybody else to meet his style and standard immediately. And that's, to me, that's somebody that, like, hey, the way I do things probably not going to work for everybody, especially a 4-win or 3-win team, right? Like, especially a team without a quarterback, especially for a team that's hiring a first-time head coach. Like, veterans aren't going to come in and buy in. Like, I can't come in guns a-blazing. So I gotta build the trust and the culture. I gotta get the right guys in. And that's truly, and maybe I'm just naive. Maybe and I'm not the, oh, Pollyanna, everything's gonna work out. In fact, I'm the opposite. I'm like, we'll see if this works. But I think it's a nice way of approaching it. We've talked about Monty and the way he's building it. Like, hey, offensive line, defensive cornerbacks, like edge rushers, where's all the safeties and linebackers? Like, that's how you build a team, right? Safeties and linebackers and wide receivers that don't mix together, and like that's how you build a team, right? Like, and so it's nice to see it taking shape, but again, none of it matters. Now the like, the time for the niceties, the time for the, like, hey, we'll see how it works. No, like, it needs to work now. And again, you and I aren't going, hey, they have to win a Super Bowl this year, or it's time to start really thinking about Jonathan Gannon. No, you're going, hey, if they're not a playoff team this year, barring, just a litany of avalanche of injuries, then changes have to happen. It probably starts with, one person, and then it'll roll downhill from there. But like that's the way we're looking at it. But who, how they've rolled it, I'm not gonna lie, I don't mind it. I really don't. Like, I think it's been done the correct way. I think it's been building the correct way. And you can see when guys like Budda Baker, who are Buddha's been under Arians, he's been under Steve Wilkes, he's been under Cliff, and now obviously JG, and like he earnestly seems like he loves what he's seeing.
Yeah. So
like, who are you or I to be like, they're not doing it the right way, or this is not good. So it's going to be interesting to see if it works out. But I've enjoyed the information that you and I have gathered coming out of these things, because it quite frankly has, I think, brought out the best of a lot of different players.
I think it's everything since Jonathan Gannon was hired. For me, the one thing, if I can describe everything that Gannon has done, is very intentional. And so, like, everything he does is thought out. It's not based on particular tradition. Like the training camp schedule, he tweaked a little bit entering this year because he wanted to do things a little bit differently to prepare this team. And they have it. And I think it's a really smart way to manage, because you can't overwork your guys. Like, there's, people love to talk about the two-a-days that exist into the 90s and the early 2000s, but the fact of the matter is you burned through a lot of players. And when you're trying to develop, when you're trying to prepare players, and they weren't paying players what they are now. And so, like, when you lose a player for injury, it's hard now because of the money.
And quite frankly, I mean, those players, were they tougher? Maybe. Like, I'm not going to say they were tougher, but they were less educated on their bodies. They were less educated on, hey, these are things we probably shouldn't play through, right? Like, these are probably like, you can't remember playing the second half of the game. Yeah, we probably shouldn't have let you back in. Things like that, right? Like, and people like to look at it and be like, oh, the good old days. I mean, there are definitely fun things and aspects about it, but there are definitely other things where you're like, ugh, Like, I can't believe we used to do that. And that was the blood sport. Remember, like that was
what Ron Wolfley was like, find the biggest guy and pick a fight with him.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we don't want fighting in camp. They're
Right.
teammates. We want competitiveness. We don't want fighting. But that leads us to our first topic. And by and large, the Cardinals, the way they've handled camp, injuries are inevitable. However, the way they've been managing it, it seems to eliminate, and probably this has to do with the culture of their preparation, some of the soft tissue, the lower leg injuries. They're not seemingly happening as much, although they will once you play the preseason games. Every preseason game brings injuries, just like every NFL game brings injuries. But there was news on Thursday that probably I'm going to say it's the headline of the news from Thursday, which was Marvin Harrison missed practice. He sat out with some knee soreness, though Gannon described him as day-to-day. So it's not something where he's quote unquote gonna miss some time. He's day-to-day. It feels like, and the way Jonathan Gannon always describes it is, we're going to be smart with him. So he sat out on Thursday, which gave Zay Jones and Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch more reps. And Zay Jones, he is, he's the guy. He's the receiver this offseason where there's the buzz coming from him about him. And I believe some of it. But it feels like everyone now is jumping onto the, hey, Zay Jones might be better than we think. Well, he's going to produce better than he better produce better than his 8 catches last year. He had 8 catches more than you and me. And
I mean, that's pretty good.
And we don't play in the NFL.
Right.
So yeah. And so, but Gannon downplayed it, but anytime you get one of your key players like Marvin Harrison, who's been dominant, he's looked great in camp, by the way, to see you're like, uh-oh.
But Jess, they're only contested catches. That's all we ever see.
Except the one that you said were on that little slot run, where a little comeback and then run after the catch. That's different. That's different.
Right. And again, like, there's not a lot that we see or hear that we can talk about too much. But one of the things that we have heard about Marv this camp is that he has been dominant. And the highlights that you're seeing, those are, while they're fantastic, those aren't what are making the camp dominant. It's his whether it's sevens, whether it's during team, we got some interesting information on a particular red zone session where he was basically unguardable, and those things are all, that's the excitement of it, and that's the dominant camp, and those are the things that you look at and you go, damn, it's kind of like what you talked about with Walter Nolan. Obviously a much less, or I guess more important degree, but also to a lesser degree of, like, you just don't want that momentum lost, right? Like, he is playing at the level that everybody expected, unfairly, by the way, coming out, but he's starting to get to that, like, oh damn, this dude is the real deal aspect of it. And now it's like, all right, like, is this a like fluid on the knee? Is this like, oh, just bang knees with another guy, and we're just, like he said, just going to take, like, obviously we'll never get that information. We know that, but it's just an unfortunate timing aspect and part.
And I guess we just have to wait and see if that's going to impact anything. Day to day makes it sound like, okay, hopefully by the end of the week, he's, ideally, you'd like to see him out of the red and white practice doing some stuff. And more importantly, to not be in a situation. I don't know what the plan is with the starters. Early in the week, Gannon said that he hadn't talked to the players about what's going to happen with starters, but we'll find out next week what their plan with some starters are for the first preseason game. My guess is most guys don't play. Most of this, like the James Conner won't even get a rep, or Kyler probably won't, or like there'll be certain guys you're like, not going to play. Well, we'll wait and see. And if they do, it'll be a series. But that's not the only thing to talk about. So we've got Marv. Hopefully that's all that is just a side note, a footnote in what is a fantastic camp. But coming next on the Res Here podcast, Best Our Cardinals talk on the web. Hey, looks like that we're starting to also get some Isaiah Adams hype. That's coming next on Res Here Ed. We're back on the Res Here podcast, Best Our Cardinals talk on the web. Isaiah Adams, one of the guys we said has something to prove this camp. The position at right guard, Isaiah Adams, has not only been okay, but apparently this week, Jonathan Gannon has called him an all-star. He's been dominating physically, and he's been doing well mentally, which is kind of like for those who are saying, hey, we got to sign Will Hernandez immediately, they might not need to.
Yeah, and that was something you and I talked a little bit about on Tuesday, right? Like, it's really easy to go, oh my gosh, they need to bring back Will Hernandez. He's cleared. It's really hard to go, hey, let's just wait until we actually see what Isaiah Adams is doing and how he looks and those things. And the reality is like, why I mentioned that was kind of some information that was shared with us. Like, hey, Isaiah Adams actually looked surprisingly really good.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The timing is really, really convenient too, isn't it?
Right.
To have Gannon come out and just rave about Isaiah Adams literally 48 hours after Will Hernandez says he's medically cleared. That I think, if more than anything, that's chuckle timeliness.
Right. And so you just kind of look at it and Adams has been he's probably closer to where they want him to be than what fans probably want to believe, right? Like they're thinking to themselves like, oh, he hasn't been that good. It's like, no, he has. Like, they've looked good, so it's okay to enjoy it.
Right. And yeah, at the end of last season, it was rough. It was rough, but he was their third string guard at that point. So
right. Yeah. So you look at it and you just say, hey, this is good. Like, it's fun to be able to see a guy and hope. And I think so much of it is like, let's be honest, our fans they're scared. Like, they're just
yes, 100%
scared. So,
yep. And anything else of note? I mean, this has been a kind of a short week yet, because since the show, there's been one practice. There's lots of Zay Jones talk. Assistant head coach and special teams coordinator Jeff Rogers talked about the kickoff rule, talked about special teams guys, that there's lots of things wide open. But I think we're almost at the point, I think, by the end of this week, where you run out of stories, right? You run out of stories and then you have to talk about the preseason. Because the fact of the matter is how much can you talk about what you see in practice, and you start to think, well, the defense is winning or the offense is winning, but what's the reason for that? Does that mean the offense is good or the defense is bad, or the defense is good and the offense is bad? We talk about this every single year. Like, training camp is hard to tell, because if they don't, neither unit looks good, well, maybe that's because one side is good. Like,
yeah,
maybe it's because they're really even. I don't know.
Right. This time of year is just so difficult, and you kind of look at it and you go, I really hope this isn't a bad thing. But then sometimes you're like, maybe it is a bad thing, and we know it is, and we got to keep working at it, and so I think what they're pushing towards and the way that they're doing things, it's going to give us some clarity early in the season, and we'll be able to kind of look at it and go, okay, this team can compete, or oh man, this team cannot compete. Like, and we'll have clarity sooner than later. But I'm bullish on it, to be frank. Like, I think that they have talent. I think that they're close to where they need to be, and they're going to continue to build it the right way.
And with that, this has just been a quick episode. We'll be back again next week. That'll wrap up this edition of the Rise Up Secret podcast, the best of Cardinals talk on the web. We'll be back next week. Hopefully we've got some more takeaways, and at minimum, towards later on the week, we'll discuss what we want to see in the first preseason game as they take on the Chiefs, which will be, I mean, they'll play some players on the Chiefs. Like, if you watch the Hall of Fame game today,
Right.
Preseason football, y'all. But just as a side note, they were raving about how Trey Lance looked, and I'm like,
He's
good. Like, he's 25 years old
Right.
now. He's not the young kid anymore. But I'm like, but he looked good against guys who won't play
right
on any NFL roster. So
Don't
good
you
for
remember
him.
the Blaine Gabbert years, Jeff?
Yes. And as I said, when you are that talented playing against that group, you should look like the best player on the field. So good job for him for doing that. He's not going to start this year. They got Justin Herbert. So with that, we wrap up this show. That's Seth Cox. I'm Jess Root. We'll be back again soon next week. Thanks for listening as always.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up, See Red podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise up, Red Sea, be Red, See Red, and of course, Rise Up, See Red.